welcome to or welcome back to Founders in Jeans. I'm your host, Emily Jean. And before we get into the episode, I just want to say a huge thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I also wanted to say that if you enjoy the show, feel free to leave a review on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening to this, and also to follow us. You can follow us on Spotify, of course. You can follow us on Instagram at Founders and Jeans. You can also find me on Instagram at emily.jeans, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect with people on there, and I have a lot of good conversations from listeners. Also, you can always leave a bad review for us. I'm totally fine with that. And in fact, I think that's exciting. I would love to know what we can do to improve. So you can also leave comments below and let me know what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy. I actually do read every single one. We also have a newsletter that comes out once a week, so you can get all the updates from us. We also put in some weekly business and marketing updates in there, as well as some personal notes from me. You can subscribe to that on my LinkedIn, also through the Instagram and in the show notes below. Anyways, that is all from me. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. I hope it's a good one, and I'll chat to you soon. April Palmer of Rev Amp, welcome to Founders and Jeans. I am so excited to chat to you today. Thank you for making the time. Before we get started, for people who don't know you, can you give a little bit of a background about yourself?
Sure. Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm such a fangirl, and I know I was reaching out to you and please let me come talk to you. So I'm really excited to be here. I am one of those people who kind of does all the things. So I lead sales and do some negotiation for a consultancy that focuses on AWS costs or cloud costs. That's like the thing that makes the money that allows me to do all of the other fun stuff. I'm also an adjunct professor at BCU. So I teach our Masters of Product Innovation. I teach venture creation, and then I actually teach a class about the Savannah bananas and customer obsession, which is like kind of my fun pet project. And then I own my own consultancy where I help companies who are trying to scale after they've raised like their first kind of seed round or series A, and they're trying to figure out how do we make money? How do we do revenue? And so that's like the boring stuff. And then I'm a mom of two. I've got two kids who are almost 25 and 20 and 6 cats and a blind dog. So I'm kind of busy all the time.
Yes, I can say without a doubt you are definitely busy all the time. That goes without saying. Also, you just told me you're hosting an additional 2 cats on top of your 6. So that is, yeah.
Actually, we at the moment right now we have 10 cats in my house, which
Oh my
is
goodness.
insane. Don't judge me. I'm already judging myself so much for this.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited to chat to you. It's funny because I just posted on LinkedIn yesterday about how certain guest pitches stand out, basically, and like what makes a good guest pitch good. And yours immediately stood out. And actually, my assistant usually will forward them to me, and she'll just say, does this guest look good to you? But with yours, she specifically said her energy comes through the screen. That was the note that she added on. So I'm so excited to talk to you. I think this is going to be such a good conversation. Why don't we go back a little bit? So you're doing a lot now. Walk me through early days, early into your career. How have you kind of got into this place?
Oh my gosh, my career is absolutely insane. Like way early days. I mean, I'm in my late 40s now, and so I've been doing this for a while. But actually, I went to college in Germany, and when I came back to the States, I couldn't get a job with my German degree, and so I worked third shift as a 911 operator while I went to nursing school, and then I got divorced when I was pregnant with my youngest, and couldn't stay in healthcare, so I got a job selling packaging equipment, which was like crazy because it had nothing to do with anything that I knew how to do. And then since then, I kind of worked my way through some Fortune 100 companies in sales and figured out a couple of things that I'm really great at closing impossible to close deals. Like that is my superpower, my kryptonite. Or what? That's like a really bad analogy for me because I don't watch the whatever that is, Superman. Sorry. I am like the the like high volume lead generation and the executive function stuff, all of that is really hard for me. I have crazy ADHD. Even when it's regulated, it's still like insane. And so I got really good at closing impossible to close deals. But as I was doing that, one of the things that I figured out is that I'm also really amazing at customer discovery, which leads to insights about customers that I take to the product innovation teams. And then a lot of times they build products from those. And I know how to build the business case for selling them, get the first few clients, and kind of get that going. So I've done that for a subsidiary of International Paper, ADP, the big red payroll company, Sovereign Bank, American Express. And then eventually I thought, well, maybe I'll just go do this for small companies. And so I've been doing it in the startup world ever since.
Amazing. Such a niche skill and like specific subset. I'm curious, you said that you kind of discovered that. What led to that discovery? Like, how do you discover you're good at that sort of thing?
Well, one thing is that the people who were in charge, the people who were paying my paychecks, were like, you need to get more leads in. Like, you've got to generate business. And I just was really, really bad at like sending out massive amounts of emails and going at the time. It was like you would look in the yellow pages, which really dates me, and then you would go knock on doors, right, and try to get past gatekeepers. And I had little kids. I was a single mom. I didn't get child support. Like, I didn't really have time to do that, but also I was really bad at it. I like if somebody was like, "No, you're bothering me," I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I know this is annoying. Please don't hate me. So I had to figure out, how do I get opportunities smarter? And then how do I get really, really good at closing them so that I don't have to have as many? And a couple of things that I did, some of my favorite things when I was really early on in my career, is I just got super creative with trying to get in front of people. So, like, for instance, I went one time and bought a whole bunch of hula hoops, and I taped a little note to it that said I would jump through hoops for 30 minutes of your time. And then I worked for a packaging company. So I went and like made a box,
Mhm.
put them in there, and then mailed it to the people I wanted to meet with. And like, I got 100% of those meetings. Like, people will meet with you if you do that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, like, I didn't close all of them, but I got conversations. One time I also got, I went and got cheesecake and had the bakery like do the logo of the company on top of it and then cut out one slice, which by the way, I ate because I was so poor at the time. And I was like, well, I'm not wasting it. Like, I'm going to eat it. But then I would put a little note, or I would write on the top of the box, I don't want the whole pie, just a piece of it, and then drop it off to the person at the front
Nice.
desk. And
Yeah.
so I got really, really good at identifying who I needed to talk to, figuring out how to get in front of them, and then having really, really deep conversations with them so that I had a higher likelihood of closing them. And that's just followed me through my career.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. So creative, so ingenious. Those are the kinds of stories that I think really it makes me so excited. Like it can make sales such an exciting process for so many people. What are you here to talk about today? What do you think our listeners are going to be most interested in?
well, I used to read a lot of like business books and self-help book, like all the stuff, right, that you're supposed to read, especially as a founder. And I did found my own business. I will tell you this is that one of the things that I learned over the 5 years of running my business is I'm really good at helping other people grow their business. And I'm not so great at doing it for myself. And like
Mm,
I had to kind of come to terms with that because I was like, am I a fraud? One of the things that I found is that we get a lot of overarching advice, right? Like, rise and grind. What the fuck does that even mean? Right. And like, what is it going to do for your business? It's like, be better, get better SEO. Well, like,
mhm.
how? What do you do? To what point? What platforms should you use? Those types of things. And so, um, I feel like that one of the things that I really like to do is have conversations with people where they can take something out of it that's actionable and actually like moves the needle on their business. Doesn't have to be huge, but sometimes there's just like one little thing where founders get stuck. Sometimes it's marketing and getting those first meetings. Sometimes it's understanding how to talk about your value proposition. Sometimes it's trying to figure out how to pay your salespeople or like do a pitch to fundraise, whatever it is.
Mhm.
there's always kind of one thing that I feel like if we can unstick, it makes everything else feel
Yeah.
beautiful. But doing it like a human, not doing it like a stupid fucking self-help book that's written
Yeah.
by a man who is never like, who probably chat GPT'd it for.
100%.
Yeah.
I am curious, kind of on top of that, because you are wearing so many hats, and I think so many business owners wear hats, especially small businesses and entrepreneurs who are just starting. How have you been able to manage and balance all of that at once?
Not well, not
Okay.
very well at all. The reality is you can only do so many things really, really well at any given time. And so if I'm like really killing it on one side of the shape kind of that I'm trying to put myself into, then chances are something else is falling by the wayside. I'm lucky that a couple of things. First of all, I try to have really honest conversations with myself. Like, are you telling yourself a true story? And I try to call myself out on my bullshit. So a couple of things that I do is like I realize what I'm really bad at, and then I hire people to do those things, whether
Mhm.
it's my own business or it's my home. Like I just recently hired somebody who's a household manager, and she comes into my house. It's funny. I'm like, oh, you're like a wife who gets paid really well and also like respected
Right.
for the work that you do.
Right. Right.
So you're a wife at all. But she comes in and literally like looks around my house 2 or 3 times a week and she'll just be like, "Oh, here are all the things that need to be done to run this house well." And whether it's like clean out the pantry, fold and put away laundry, reorganize something, hang a picture that I've been meaning to hang, whatever it is. And so that helps because I have other people who kind of step in. But the reality is that if I have a project that I'm really, really excited about or that has a deadline, chances are I'm messing up somewhere else. Like I'm dropping a
Mhm.
ball.
Right.
And I think if you set reasonable expectations and if you also just don't like beat yourself up about it, then it's fine.
Yeah.
We're all human.
Of course. Yeah, it's a very true response. I think it's something so many people are struggling with, and it's very easy to get caught up in this kind of burnout language that we hear a lot. The truth is, if you want a successful anything, a lot of the time things are going to have to fall to the wayside. And
Yeah. And also, one of the things that we forget to do is remind ourselves that what we dream about and what we have as kind of like the end goal um, is so far beyond what most people can even begin to comprehend. And so I tell a lot of my clients this, a lot of people I mentor, like, what is it that's actually expected from you, from the other people? And what is it that you expect from yourself? Because I
mm,
feel like you are expecting to sit down and write like a full business plan in 20 minutes that's foolproof and has all the things and like can be put in front of an investor. And other people are hoping that you can like, you know, flesh out the salient points around how you're going to approach building the tech, right? Like not even like how you do it.
yeah.
And so we have to be really realistic about that. I don't know. I would be interested to hear like what do you hear on your end from like what's the biggest problem that people have managing
Mm,
all of the things?
I think for it changes depending on what stage business owners are in. But I was just talking earlier with like a young entrepreneur who's just started his business about 7 months ago. His concern is he doesn't know two things. He doesn't know not so much about managing things, but he's not sure where to put his time.
Hmm.
So he's not sure what are the biggest priorities. Then obviously for many new entrepreneurs, a big issue is budgeting. Like they're not sure how to spend money, where to spend money, like what is cash flow, those sort of things.
Right. Yeah. Like understanding what the like how burn rate and runway work together and then how much things actually cost and how long they take. I
Yep.
think one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I started my company in 2015 was I would hire a contractor, I would hire a vendor to do something, right? Like
Mhm,
they
mhm.
would build an API interface for me. At the time
Yeah.
I was building a wellness platform and they would be like, yeah, sure. Like we can knock it out in 2 weeks. And so I would build my entire plan around the fact that it was going to take 2 weeks and it was going to cost me $5,000.
Mhm.
And, you know, $35,000, and 8 weeks later, they had identified all of the things that like could have gone wrong, that needs to whatever.
Right.
And I didn't know to expect those things. So I didn't know what questions to ask to make sure that I could avoid those surprises. And
Hmm.
I feel like the first 3 years of owning a business was just one surprise. It was like I was being sucker punched every single day because I just didn't know I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what
Yeah.
questions to ask. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know where the landmines were, which I think is why it's really important to get amazing mentors and like even when you're talking about investors, I think it's Simon Sinek. He talks about this thing called the challenge network, like creating a challenge network. And he says it way more eloquently than I do. But there's this moment where it's like, you need to surround yourself with people who give enough of a damn about your success that they will tell you the truth, right? They'll give you
Hmm.
real feedback. And whether that's saying like, hey, I know that you said that this is going to take 2 weeks, but in my experience, it always takes 6, and kind of pushing you to believe that, or even saying like, hey, I know that you said that this solves this problem, but have you done enough customer discovery to figure out if it actually is a problem that needs to be solved? So like I think having that challenge network and having people like really being open to listening is huge when you're a first time or like first or second time founder.
Yeah. It's funny hearing you talk about this. I'm getting a bit of deja vu too, because I've 100% had conversations on this podcast where people have said the same exact thing you just said of you don't know what you don't know. Like in the beginning, it is just surprise after surprise after surprise. It also makes me think too, another way to counteract that, not really counteract it, but the sooner you start, the better, because so many people will spend so much time preparing. The truth is things are going to come up whether or not you're prepared,
Right.
regardless.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Well, the sooner you start, the better. You can kind of counteract those problems by giving yourself more time in the long run.
Like not
No.
being so rigidly tied to specific milestones, more like, and I know this is counter to every business book that I think that you'll read,
Mm,
but if you're more like, oh, this is like the vibe of where we're going for these different
mm,
things, right? Like ish. I want the
right.
website done ish by
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
right? Like or like what are the most important parts of it to get done?
Yeah.
And not being like, okay, if we don't have this done by the 15th of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, then everything's going to blow up and like we're screwed. We're never going to be able to get to market
Right.
and beat competitors. That's but I think that we get told to do that and
Yep.
it's unrealistic and then it feels like failure. You're pummeled by surprises on one side and like perceived failure on the other every
Mm,
single day. And what that does to
mhm.
the system
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah. I totally agree. I read this book once too. I was talking about like that there is no real deadline, that basically like all deadlines are just made up. Even the concept of a deadline can be incredibly intimidating. I want to ask you, speaking of deadlines, sort of, um, there's a stat somewhere that says 98% of businesses fail within their first 5 years, and you've passed the 5 year mark. So, can you talk to me? What also working with so many different businesses from your own perspective, what is it that sets a business apart to last those first 5 years?
Okay, so the business that I started in 2015 failed in year 4. So it did. Like, and also, I mean, there is another statistic, and I don't know exactly what it is, but it's basically like the average successful entrepreneur succeeds on their 5th startup.
Mm,
So, like, you can't really, and that was kind of my attitude going into my first one was like, well, like, if it fails, it just means I'm like that much closer to getting to one that will succeed. But I do work with a lot of companies. I start working with them usually in like year 3, 4, 5, and then to like get to that next stage. And I think it goes back to, again, like telling yourself a true story, being realistic about what it is that you need, what you're trying to do. You can't, what's the saying? You can't boil the ocean, right? Like
mm,
you shouldn't try. So I think some of the things that I see is that founders have a really hard time scoping back to like something that's achievable, both from a timing perspective, what clients are expecting, what they can fundraise on, and then saying like, okay, I'm going to conquer this little problem, and then I can build off that and off that and off that, right?
Yeah.
So they try to do too much. They try to do it too quickly, oftentimes. Also, when you see a company, I think a lot of times when you see a company that gets to that kind of like 5 to 7 maybe year mark, if
Mhm.
they've been successful, if they're at the point where they're at that like million, 2 million ARR thing,
Mhm.
that is an inflection point, and you need to be planning for it. Most of the time, realistically, a founding CEO is not a scale CEO. They're trying to be a scale CEO. And
Right.
so I see a lot of very successful companies where the founding CEO will say, okay, it's time for me to take a different role in the organization. Maybe that's product innovation. Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it's just fundraising, whatever it
Mhm.
is. Let's put a CEO in place that has experience with scale
Yeah.
and figuring out how to do this. And that is really tough on the ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so hard, especially because in the startup world, the ones that we see that are kind of considered the unicorns are usually, the dudes in hoodies who started their company in their
Right.
garage and they're still doing it billions of dollars later.
Right.
But in reality, that's not what works. And so
Yeah.
we have to honor where our skill set is and where we can bring in other people with expertise to help us achieve our goals.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that too. I would even say in those companies where those examples seem present, it's not really accurate. A lot of time they are kind of glorified figureheads, and you wouldn't believe the amount of people there are managing that person so that they don't mismanage the company.
And a lot of them, because they fundraised early, they got other people who had experience who were advising them on the
Right.
side, right? Even if they were technically the CEO, like if you're a CEO of a company and you have 7 other C-suite people who are doing like all of this other work, that's a lot different than being a
Yeah,
CEO of a company and
100%.
also trying to be the chief marketing officer and the product innovation, all of those things, and and the main salesperson, right?
I I want to ask your opinion on this because I think it's a little bit a little bit in alignment with what we're talking about. I heard something the other day, a quote, I think it was on Diary of a CEO, and he was saying that the one of the number one factors that you can control about for the success of your business is hiring and firing.
Yes.
Do you think that's true?
So true. It is
Mhm.
so true. I think though, like the thing that gets missed, and I see this all the time. So this is blows my mind is
Mhm.
we tend to see patterns. You either hire somebody who's like a 1099 contractor or you hire somebody who's a W-2 employee. And the
Mhm.
1099 contractor, you kind of still, especially in early days, you think that this person is going to be with you forever.
Mhm.
If the B2 person you think it's going to be with you forever. I think that there are some really interesting ways that you can structure employment or kind of vendor contracts where you say, like, okay, we are trying to achieve this thing. Even if they come on as a W-2, we're trying to achieve this thing. This is where your skill set lies. When we achieve that, then it will be time for you to move out of that role. Like we both agree with this.
Mhm.
And here's what your exit package is going to look like. I'm going to tell you up front. It's written in your employment contract.
Yeah.
This is what your exit package looks like. And this is when we can expect for it to happen. And we'll identify this like over time and then make
Mhm.
that transition out. And I think if you walk in with this kind of idea of like, hey, I'm hiring you and you're an expert in this, and we're going to plan for you to phase out once we do it on everybody's on good terms. You know what you're gonna get. You're gonna know when you have to start looking for something else. Like I'm
Mhm.
gonna help support you. I think that's amazing. And we don't see that very
Yeah.
often. I think it's really just like a communication issue. But I will tell you a story. This is rough. In my business, I was called PivotPass and we built wellness programs for employers. And so like the goal was to provide the most diverse kind of experiences that you could for employees in their fitness journey. And I hired a salesperson and I was working full time. I was like CEO and I had a co-founder and I was also working full time to pay the salaries of everyone in my own in my own company. And so like I made money as a W-2 and it literally went out the door to go pay my contractors. But I hired the salesperson and in 6 months she had not closed one deal. And I
Mm.
could not figure it out. So I was like, I'm going to take a couple of days off work. I'm going to sit down and figure out what's going on. And I started going through the CRM and calling the customers who she had gotten really, really close to being able to sign, but like not being able to close the deal. And I called the first one. I was like, hey, so I'm calling. I know that you've had conversations with the salesperson and like I'm just doing some customer discovery and you all got to this kind of point. Can you tell me why you decided not to partner with us? And the woman was like, I've never even heard of this person. I was like, wait, what? And she's like, no, I've never even heard of your company. And I was like, wait, what? So I started calling so many people in my CRM. She had just been making stuff up. She literally just filled the CRM with fake sales calls. And I had been paying her like $3,000 a month and she was not doing any work at all. And that was me, right? Like that was her. That was shitty, right? But that was me. I should have known that. And I
Mm.
kept track of it. And like looking back, even understanding what her skill set was and what she wanted to do and what she was good at, I think she would have been really great in a different role. But I put her in a role that she was not good at. And then she also was not ethical about
Mm.
identifying that and leading. And so you not only have to make really good choices about who you're hiring, because as a founder, you will get so many people who will be like, hey, my cousin's brother's dog's uncle is really good at sales, so you should hire him. And then you do it, and then you waste so much time and money. And it's not just money, it's like heartache, it's opportunity costs, it's so many things. But then also, once you hire them, you have to constantly be checking to make sure that they are the right fit for the role that you put them in, and
Mm.
also that the role is the right fit for what it is that you're trying to achieve.
I think you just kind of spelled out every founder's worst nightmare as well.
I cried. I cried for months after that.
Mm.
And also, then every time I tried to make a business decision, I would freak myself out. Lost complete and total faith in my ability to make good decisions.
Yeah. Do you, just so we wrap up on a positive note, do you have an incredible hire or maybe in somebody you've worked with that you know has had an incredible hire that's like they really did everything right to get that result?
Yeah, I think so. I see that a lot, actually. When founders or whoever's kind of hiring, they do a really, really good job of defining like, what is it that I need from this person? And
Oh.
I live in the sales world. Let's use that as an example. Oftentimes founders will hire their like founding eight, right? Their account executive. And they expect that person to be able to generate leads like an SDR, close account, like work accounts, close accounts, be an account manager, do all of the reporting and report back up to the CEO so that they can like make their sales and growth projections. That's a lot of roles for one person to hold, and it's a
Mhm.
lot for one person to be very, very good at.
Yeah.
Like if you are great at generating a massive amount of pipeline leads, let's be honest, you're probably not great at closing enterprise level accounts.
Yeah.
Like they're two very different skill sets. So when I see founders who get really creative with like, hey, I need somebody who's great at closing enterprise level accounts, but I can't afford to like I need them to do all these things. And then they find different tools or like outsource lead gen companies or they do channel partnership programs where they're getting leads from other people, whatever it is, like so that they take that off of the plate of the person who's closing the executive. Then you see just like massive growth and it's amazing and it feels really good.
Mm.
And then the other thing is like don't count out hungry college students these days. I'm teaching at like all of my students are seniors in undergrad or they're in their master's degree programs. And I'm telling you, these kids today work their asses off and they are creative and they're fun and they're in it to win it, right? And so I've watched quite a few of my students move into their careers across the startup world and just slay. And it's people my age will be like kids these days, right? Kids these days are amazing.
Right.
So I have to say that that's probably the thing I'm most excited about actually is watching the generation that's graduating from college now, school who are deciding to pursue their dreams before they go to college, watching them go out and change the way that we're approaching starting
Mhm.
growing businesses is fabulous. Like it's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that too, because it is very easy to get caught up in, well, I have to hire the best for this job or the most qualified or the greatest expert. And I think that's true to an extent if that's available to you, of course. But there are so many benefits that you will never discover unless you are taking chances and bets on younger people. I really, really, truly believe every entrepreneur, if you are hiring, you should have at least one person in your organization who is younger than you.
Yes, yes, do it. And hire for grit and gumption and creativity, right? Like you to sell something, you don't need years and years and years of experience. You need to have a product people can believe in. You need to be good to them. And you need to have somebody who can wake up every day and face rejection and just be like, cool, let's do it again. Let's do it again, right? And just like keep at it. And I really believe that that's the generation that's entering the workforce today.
Right, right. I completely agree. One last question
Yeah.
before we wrap up. My favorite question to ask everyone. Do you have a book or a podcast or a course or a resource or anything like that you can recommend to budding entrepreneurs?
Yes. Oh, wow, you put me on the spot. Okay, here's what I would say is there are a couple of books that I recommend to everyone, and I also have my students read them. First of all, I say read a book. I use the Blinkist app. If you don't know what that is, it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Um, like you can get a business book synopsis in 15 minutes, and then you can figure out if you actually want to read it. Most business books are like common sense with a few gems thrown in. And
Mhm.
so I tend to focus things before I actually read them. But They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan is a book that I send to people all the time. It's amazing. As a founder, if you read this and just follow the process. And what he does is he says, take client discovery calls, take client sales calls, write down every question you get asked and create
Mm.
content on it. White papers, LinkedIn posts, videos, whatever it is, answer the questions. Even pricing, like be transparent.
Right.
And then like talk about where you don't do well and like where your competitors might, like all of the things, talk about it all. Because buyers are trying to figure out how to solve a problem already. And if you become their North Star for what is right with this, by the time they get through the content, they trust you. They're only now on the phone with you for a sales call trying to figure out how this works for them, not conceptually, but for them, which is amazing. So, Marcus Sheridan, They Ask You Answer for sure.
Yeah.
The other one is Rocket Fuel. And it's kind of an oldie but goodie, but it talks about you have like your visionary and then you have your integrator, which is the doer.
Mhm.
And most successful pairings of founders are people who work together like puzzle pieces and like kind of
Mhm.
big picture. And so you have the visionary who's like big ideas and we should do this, whatever. And then the integrator who's like, yes, and we will do that. But first, we need to like build a foundation. First, we have to do this. And this is how we do it. And here are the people we can hire to do it, whatever. So I love Rocket Fuel. I think that it's an amazing book. And if you read those two, I feel like that's just like your recipe for success right there.
I've heard Rocket Fuel in the past on the podcast. What was the first one you mentioned again?
It's called They Ask You Answer by
Yeah.
Marcus.
Good answer. Okay, that one's good. I've not heard that before.
And then the last thing that I would say is have some audacity around asking for advice. There are a
Mhm.
couple things here is my great grandfather used to say, if you want advice, ask for money. And if you want money, ask for advice. And
Mhm.
so I always encouraged all of the founders I work with to just go ask for advice, right? Like other founders who have started businesses and pop into their LinkedIn DMs and just be like, hey, I'm starting this business and I'm afraid I'm going to fuck up. Just spend 30 minutes with me and tell me like all of the best things that you did. And then like just show up and be curious. Same thing with your potential clients. Like, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm building something to solve a problem. Will you spend 30 minutes with me to make sure that I don't spend a whole bunch of money building something that isn't going to work? chances are some of those will become your first clients. And like, then always follow up with them like, hey, I took your advice and we did this and this is what happened. Even if
Yeah.
it's your advice, we did this and it failed, right? Get back to them. And I think that over any podcast and over any book that you could read, if you are audacious about sliding into people's DMs on LinkedIn and asking for advice across the board, and then just coming with a really, really curious brain and passion that you do, you're going to get an absolute masterclass in how to succeed. You're
Yeah.
also going to create an entire like cheering section of
Right.
people who feel like they have skin in the game for what you're doing. They're going to introduce you to people. They're
Right.
going to be people who find your lead investor. They're going to find your first client. They're going to find your first salesperson or like your first product innovation hire, whatever it is. Go ask for advice. It's the best thing. It's the best use of time that you can ever imagine.
Yeah. I love that advice. I think it's so true. And I can't tell you, it's not all of them, but there are a few entrepreneurs I know who have basically built their business on that principle of like the advice of others. So brilliant. April, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad we got to do this. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you?
So I'm on two places. Both are completely unhinged. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram on a regular basis. My handle on both of them is Hot Mess Boss. You can find me because I'm usually wearing hot pink or doing something kind of crazy in a photo. And if you find me, like, first of all, I want you to come be my friend. I love my LinkedIn and my Instagram friends. So come be my friend, but also like say that you heard me on Emily's podcast so that I know that I can come back to her and be like, oh my God, thank you for introducing me to the best people ever. And also I'm a connector. It's my favorite thing to do in the entire world. So when you connect with me, go look at my connections and be like, hey, April, will you introduce me to this person? I want to like slide into their DMs and see if I can ask them some questions. I will do that all day long. It's my favorite.
Yeah, I love that. Please, guys, take April up on that offer because that is priceless. That is literally gold right there. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been such a good conversation. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.